Do you work in the animal health industry or veterinary profession? Have you ever wondered how successful people got their start and what led them to where they are today? Hi everyone, I'm Stacy Purcell, founder and CEO of The Vet Recruiter, the leading executive search and recruiting firm specializing in the animal health industry and veterinary profession. I was the first recruiter in the United States to focus exclusively on this space, building the first search firm dedicated to this unique niche. Over the past 28 plus years, I've developed relationships with many of the industry's top leaders and trailblazers. The People of Animal Health podcast features the incredible individuals I've had the privilege to connect with throughout my career. In each episode, you'll hear their stories, their career journeys, leadership lessons, and the impact they've made on the industry. With a wide range of expert guests, you'll gain insights, inspiration, and ideas you can apply to your own career. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the People of Animal Health podcast. Today, I am honored to welcome Dr. Mary Gardner, one of the world's leading voices in veterinary hospice, geriatric medicine, and end-of-life care. Dr. Gardner is the co-founder of Lap of Love Veterinary Hospice, an organization that has transformed how families experience compassionate end-of-life care for their beloved pets. Before becoming a veterinarian, Mary spent nearly a decade working in software development and technology, a background that continues to influence her innovative approach to veterinary medicine today. She is also an accomplished author, educator, international speaker, and co-founder of Noodle U, where she helps make veterinary education engaging, practical, and enjoyable. Her passion for senior pets, hospice care, and strengthening the human-animal bond has inspired veterinary professionals and pet owners around the world. Mary, welcome to the People of Animal Health podcast, and how are you today?
I'm good, Stacy. Forgot to add that we've known each other for over a decade. Like, it's been a long time.
We have, yes, that's right. And I'm so excited. I've heard parts of your story over the years, but I'm so excited to have you here as my guest. And I would love to start off at the beginning of your life. Where'd you grow up and what was life like growing up?
Well, I'm a New Yorker, but those from the five boroughs would call me an upstater, but I am from the south of New York State. My father worked in the city, but wanted us to grow up in the country. So just in Orange County, New York, and just lived kind of country life. We had a couple of acres. My parents divorced though when I was about 9. And so I was primarily raised by my mom. So single mom, and just kind of went from boarding house to somebody else's couch to, we just kind of made ends meet roughly. But and then when I graduated high school, just ended up going down south to South Carolina first, and then University of Miami for marine science degree.
Well, when did you first become interested in veterinary medicine and what led to you becoming a veterinarian?
Okay, so I was not interested in being a vet when I was growing up. So many people, Stacy, are like, oh, I knew when I was a kid, and I loved animals, but I was not the smartest kid in this class. I was just, scraping by. I set my bar low. I just wanted to, get through school. But and I really actually just love the ocean and marine life. So that's why I went for marine science. A dolphin trainer or something like that would have been just great. Now I'm an 80s girl, so this is back when like Flipper was okay. I know better now. But it wasn't until though a pretty bad experience with my own loss of my own pet that made me consider going into veterinary medicine. So as you mentioned, I spent 10 years, I didn't even do marine science. I ended up in software development, just twist of fate stuff, and really enjoyed just the design process of software. So that was in the 90s and 2000s. And when there was a lot of cool, exciting stuff. Not that there's not cool stuff now, but it was, the .com bubble was happening. I remember before there was a www. And so that was just such a great time of my life is doing that software development and all the things that I learned from all the companies that we serviced. But my first dog that I had really had was with me as a adult, and my relative was babysitting my dog while I was traveling for work, and his Rottweilers and my dog, who was a Samoyed, got in a really bad fight. So she spent 3 weeks in and out of the hospital trying to get over if her 72 bite wounds and a broken jaw, just very
Oh,
sick. And she sadly passed from that. And I just felt so helpless, not being able to, I couldn't get the medications down her. I couldn't, fix her wounds. Like I just tried so hard to care for her. And that death just really hit me hard. That was my first dog, mine. And so a few months go by and you just do crazy stuff when you're in grief, Stacy. And I just woke up one day just having such a horrible, just remembrance of what happened. And I thought, I wonder what I, need to do to get back into school and maybe be a vet, and just feel like I let her down. And so how could I help her? And so that's when I started to take some night classes to get the classes that I needed. I worked at the Humane Society on the weekends because I was still working my full-time job. And then I got a job as a kennel worker. And, so just cleaning kennels and starting from the bottom in my 30s. So then I got into the University of Florida, thankfully, and then graduated in 2008. So I'm what they call a second career vet.
well, you have often spoken about your special love for senior pets. What is it about geriatric animals that connects with you so deeply?
I could see a kitten or a puppy and I appreciate them, but you give me like a crunchy old kitty cat or a wobbly dog, like an old guy, like I just go bonkers for them. Um, I feel the same way about elder people too. There's something magical about the stories that they have, how much they've meant to the family. Just, I could see the desperation in families' faces that they know that time is, coming. And just being in the end of life space for 16 years, it's those are the typical pets that we see, and I just see their struggles and what we could do to help them. So I don't know what it is about the oldies, but man, gray muzzles just are my favorite.
Well, Mary, as co-founder of Lap of Love Veterinary Hospice, you help pioneer in-home, end-of-life veterinary care. What unmet need did you see in the profession that inspired you to create Lap of Love?
Well, I love general practice. So I was in GP for a little bit, and there's just something missing there. And I love the clinic I was at, Pet Vet Animal Hospital in Deerfield Beach, Florida. I have to give them a shout out. Like, I loved them, loved the families. But I just wanted to do something more or different. And so I was looking outside of general practice to do something different. I was actually interviewing with pharmaceutical companies and technology companies. And it was my classmate, Danny McVitie, who was an emergency veterinarian in Tampa, Florida, which is about 4 hours north of me. And she was doing in-home euthanasia. And I had done some in-home euthanasia from my clinic as well. And she was like, hey, I'm doing this, but like, I do all my medical records manual, and the client notifications to the clinics and all these things that she was doing manual. And so she said, maybe you can help build software, and maybe this is something you want to do. And I thought, Stacy, heck no, like I don't want to do that. But I went and talked to her, and just the light bulb went off. And I thought, oh my gosh, if we could make saying goodbye at home way more common, have it to be the normal, have it to be what people ask for. Like, I've come full circle, because the death of Snow White, that was my girl's name, like led to me leaving a really good job and going to school, going into debt, like all these things. So I just thought, let's do it. And there wasn't any software that could help. All the PIMS that were out there was just for clinic work. So it's not that vets weren't doing it from their clinic, but it just wasn't the norm. And I think that's what we saw. Danny and I saw that why not be the norm is to go to the home. Mobile GP has been around for decades, like a long time. And a lot of times they're so busy because families need end of life help quit pretty urgently. So it was just such a perfect niche that, her and I both just fell in love with the idea of growing it across the country. And so that's what we did. Started in 2009, and now 17 years later, we're in, I don't know, I think 42 states or something like that. So it's been a lot of hard work though. But it was our goal is that a family knows their options, and if they would like to say goodbye at home, that somebody nearby can help.
Yeah, and I remember when you were first starting the business, and congrats on such incredible growth now in 42 states. Well, Mary, what do you think pet owners misunderstand most about hospice care?
You know what? It's not just pet owners. I think this is vets too, Stacey. I feel like some might think that we're prolonging the inevitable. And dare I say, a lot that we do in medicine prolongs the inevitable. And this is human medicine as well, right? But if you've got a kitty cat with lymphoma, one might say doing chemo is prolonging the inevitable, or osteosarcoma in a dog, or whatever it may be. But it is so not that. So people also think they're giving up, and it's not that we're giving up, but our focus just shifts. So it's a shift from curing and just focus on caring. And I think that it's nothing to be scared of. And people are scared of it. Once you say hospice, even in the human space, you just think, okay, we've got a few days. And the sooner you start hospice, actually, the longer the good quality of life can be. So unfortunately, I think even in human space, we start hospice way too late. Like, I wish people would come see us 6 months before, we think that time is near. And like I said, it doesn't mean we stop trying for curing, but it's really focusing on care. When you've got good pain relief, and you're sleeping better at night, and quality of sleep, and the caregivers feel supported and know how to help manage your symptoms better, then you feel better and you actually live better, and maybe a little longer too.
That makes so much sense. And I know that end of life care is one of the most emotional experiences pet owners face. What have you learned about helping families navigate grief, uncertainty, and incredibly difficult decisions?
First, no judgment. And I think that's so important, is not to have any judgment toward the family wants. They might want to do it sooner than you would if it was your pet. They may want to wait a little bit longer. And as long as that pet's not suffering, then I'm okay with that. Don't judge how they want to do it. Don't judge if they want their ashes back or not. Don't judge if they want to hold on to their pet for 3 days afterwards because they just want to see them for, like, I've been in thousands of homes, and every single one of them is unique, and nobody is right or wrong. And I think that grief is so bespoke to the person, to the situation, to the family, and that's okay. And it's a beautiful thing to see so much love. Like, I see sadness, but I see so much love.
Is there a patient or family that you'll never forget?
Oh my gosh. Stacey, I've got, like, I'm not a journaler, but I've got so many in my like journal. Um, one of my gosh, I've been into some, like, such cool families, but one of my favorites to me was actually, I helped a deaf family with their pet Emma. And Emma was an Australian Shepherd with the most beautiful blue eyes. But it was the mom was able to read my lips a little bit and sign language then to her husband. But it was such a quiet space. Like, nobody talked, nobody said anything, obviously, except for me with my loud mouth, right? But I had to shift how I said things because I was just slightly ignorant. Like, if is she going to translate this like exactly how I'd like it to be? Because it's such a sense that I'm so specific with my words of how I say things. But it was just so quiet, and I remember the family wasn't talking, like I said, but when I gave the sedation to Emma, and then it was time for the second medication, I said to them, and I normally say something a little bit different, but I said to them, it's time to say goodbye. Like I'm about to give the second medication, right? And she signed it to the husband, who had not said anything for the whole hour. And he kneels down because he was pacing. He was so anxious. And he kneels down and he says, "Bye, Emma." Like, so, and he normally doesn't speak, right? And it
Wow.
was just because I said it's time to say goodbye. Like I get nerves, I got like chills just thinking about it again. And it was the most sweetest thing I ever heard. Was it was just silence for that whole hour, except for "Bye, Emma." And that was the first time I think she's heard him say something, like, and
Wow.
it was just so great. But like my book of awesome stories is so full. It's just a great niche to be in.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that story. And I know one of the hardest conversations veterinarians have is discussing quality of life. What
Mm.
guidance do you give families who struggle with knowing when it's time to say goodbye?
It's my favorite conversation, but Stacey, it could take 30 minutes, 45 minutes. What we shouldn't do is think you'll know when it's time. I hate that saying, right? Like, you do know when it's time when your pet's massively suffering. Like
Hmm.
it's when it's so obvious that, but do we ever want our pets to suffer? No.
No.
So we have to say goodbye probably before that point. So it's really hard for people to gauge when that point is. So it's also not just when they stop eating, because if you've got a yellow lab with arthritis, they're eating on their goodbye day, right? Like this is dependent on the disease they may have. So it is so custom to the situation. It's custom to the family and the caregiving, like what they're able to do. You could have a dog with cognitive dysfunction that's keeping everybody up at night, and they're like
Mm.
arguing with each other, and 6 hours of the day is fine, but the other he's pacing. But is that suffer? Like it's just such an important conversation to have, because I don't want people to have guilt over what their decision is. And the majority of time that we see families is a very subjective time period. And that's what I say is like, at any time, I support your decision to say goodbye. If you call me on a Monday and you said, "We had the worst weekend, can you come and help me?" I will. If you call me on a Monday and say, "We had the best weekend, will you come and say goodbye?" Because that's what we want his last weekend to be, then I will. And it's okay to say goodbye. And I prefer to say goodbye a week too soon than a moment too late. But that's sometimes really hard because none of us want to ever say goodbye.
And then how can veterinarians better care for themselves while caring for grieving families?
Yeah, it's funny because so many people think that myself or the Lapala veterinarians have compassion fatigue, and none of us do. Like, we're oozing of compassion. That's why we do this job. Do we have drive fatigue? Yeah. Do we have our own fatigue from life stuff? Sure, but not compassion fatigue. But what I can say is what's helped me is that compassion is the recognition of suffering and the desire to change that suffering. And that's what we do with euthanasia, right? We see the pet is not well, we see the family's not well, and we get to change that. It's sad, yes, but what you can be in charge of is how you do it. And if you do it well and you give the family such an amazing goodbye experience, then like that's actually quite miraculous. It's such a wonderful feeling to be able to give the family that beautiful goodbye. So if you just focus on that, then you shouldn't have too much trouble.
Hey everyone, we are interrupting the episode briefly to talk to you about today's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by the Vet Recruiter. The Vet Recruiter is the go-to executive search and recruitment firm in the animal health industry and veterinary profession, dedicated to connecting exceptional employers with high caliber candidates. With a deep understanding of the animal health industry and veterinary profession and a vast pool of talented candidates, we make the hiring process seamless painless and efficient for the animal health and veterinary employers who have critical hiring needs. If you are an employer in search of top talent, or you work in the animal health industry, or are a veterinarian ready to take the next step in your career, look no further than the Vet Recruiter. The Vet Recruiter has placed many of the industry's top leaders, from CEOs to COOs to chief veterinary officers to VPs of marketing and sales and heads of R&D and chief scientific officers. We have built sales forces for many leading animal health companies and have placed more veterinarians in clinical practice than any other search firm in the U.S. Ready to take the next step? Visit thevetrecruiter.com today. That's thevetrecruiter.com. And now let's get back into the episode. Well, Mary, your background in technology is unique in veterinary medicine. How has your software and systems experience influenced the way hospice care is delivered today?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a geek like that. So we did build our own practice management software, which is really very robust for what we do in managing vets across all the states, all the different cities, all the different regulatory issues. Like, that's the other thing. There's so much state requirements of bite cases, a scratch case. Everything is different, right? The DEA drug logs are all different. But we've created in our software, hospice care notes and a whole function for our vets. So that way it's really easy for them to leave a hospice appointment, write their care instructions, and then our nurses help then carry that forward to the families. So that's all within our system. So it makes it very easy for them to manage their cases. But also outside of that, we've created things like the Pet Hospice Journal, which is for families. It's free for any family. They can create a profile for their pets and track things like their pet's favorite things, like the symptoms that they're managing. And they can track over time to say, you know what, his mobility has gotten better. He's sleeping better at night, or, he's not been eating as well, attaching pictures. And we have hundreds of families that are now using this. I originally built it like in 2013, but we just released the new and improved version this year. And it's a great way for families just to notate changes that are happening in their pet, and getting, some charts and graphs and reminders and stuff like that. And what's nice is they can actually email that to their regular veterinarian. So that way the regular veterinarian could be up to speed on what's going on with their pet. So anytime we could build something that helps make either our vets' lives better doing this kind of work, and also our family helping them manage their pet, like, we're all up for it. But we've got now, Stacy, there's 20 people on the technology team. Like, it's not just me geeking out anymore. So I get to hang out with other like-minded geeks.
Well, Mary, you are internationally recognized for speaking on hospice care, geriatric medicine, and euthanasia. Why do you think these important topics were historically underrepresented in veterinary education?
I think the conference organizers, like many, were death adverse, and they're like, nobody's going to want to go sit in a talk on euthanasia, right, or on hospice. And I would tell them, like, I need more than an hour. Like, I need all day. And if you don't give me all day, I'm going to have all the questions coming to me, from what sedation protocol do you use to what do you do with the ashes that families don't come to pick up after, a year. So they were really nervous at first. And also, veterinary hospice was still very new 17 years ago. They had not heard of it, and they thought it was, like, that's some witchcraft or something like that, right? But I think they were just thinking it's sad and nobody's going to want to sit through it. But my rooms are packed sometimes. I mean, it's been like, I've had 500 in one room. It was crazy. And it was amazing to see vets want to do better. They want to know what to say under certain situations. They don't always get that in vet school. Now it's getting a little bit better. The last, 5 or 6 years, vet schools are now, having some courses on it, but it's still not, something that they leave vet school having a great knowledge of.
Well, through Noodle you have taken a fresh and creative approach to continuing education. What makes learning with a fun twist so effective for veterinary professionals?
Oh, Noodle U is such a fun, it is a little fun project, if you will, of myself and Eric Garcia, my one of my besties. Him and I both were, as you mentioned, we speak a lot. And when COVID hit, all the conferences shut down and our speaking shut down. But him and I still love to do it. So instantly we said, let's build this virtual education. And at the time, it was all the state CEs were scrambling and trying to figure out Zoom and all that stuff. And we're like, and let's make it fun. And every time we go to conferences, we say to each other, like, oh, what are you noodling on? And what did you learn? And what am I going to noodle on? So I said, well, let's call it noodle. And then he's like, well, let's make it more professional, noodle you. But we wanted to have fun. So we are goofy. We are like, we're not sticks in the mud. But one of the things that we like to do is bring really great keynotes on to, like, we've had Susie Orman, who's like massive financial advisor. We've had Captain Sandy from Below Deck. So like we've had, like Sean Acor, like really good keynotes that we dedicate some time to live Q&A for. So most keynotes, you see them on the stage and they run off. But our attendees can ask like Susie Orman questions, which is so much fun. And we've done murder mystery and we have themes, and, learning, especially sitting in your room, in your house, can get a little boring. So we try to make it fun. And that's what we've done. And it's not for everybody, but those that are noodlers understand. We even had our first one. We even had, a friend of mine, Tex, he's a physical personal trainer, and we did like 7 a.m. personal training, and like everybody was doing stretches and squats and stuff like that. So, and this was all virtual. So we were trying anything.
That is fun. Well, Mary, you've written books for both pet owners and veterinary professionals. What do you hope readers take away after finishing your work?
I try to make it easy reading. Although some of my books are like 500 pages long, but I promise they're easy reading. And I want them to know they're not alone. And I think so many people, especially when you're caregivers, you get in this vacuum of like being embarrassed, being ashamed, being, scared to tell people what you're thinking. You're scared to think, I'm tired, I don't want to pick up poo anymore, like all these things. So I want them to feel empowered that there's some tips and tricks that they could do to make their lives easier. And also if they can't handle it anymore, it's okay to say goodbye. But I just want people to not be scared of caring for their older pet. Did you know that about 50% of families that have their pets euthanized in general practice have not been to their doctor a year before? So for
Really?
a year before is about 50%. It's a little bit more for cats and a little bit less than dogs, but on average, it's 50%, which means the last year of your pet's life, which is usually the one that's chock full of symptoms and problems and ailments, they're not getting any help with.
They need to get to the vet more.
They got to get to the vet. So almost every chapter in my books, I talk about, let's say, mobility issues or vision issues and stuff like that. At the end, I'm like, go see your vet, because they can help. It's, don't just think we're just trying to get money like the last year of their life. Like, no, these guys need help. And so does the caregiver.
Yeah, veterinarians do not go into the veterinary profession to make money. That's not the goal.
I would have stayed in software.
Yeah. It's not that making money is bad. It's just that I've never heard a veterinarian say, I went into this to make money.
No, not at all.
So looking ahead, how do you hope the profession continues to evolve in caring for senior pets, hospice patients, and the families who love them?
I hope more marketing is directed to senior pets. If you look at websites or you look at pharmaceutical company and their campaigns, and it's all these adult or young pets, beautiful looking labs, beautiful looking cats, stuff like that. Like, we really should start marketing to the highest percent of pets is 7 years or older. So like 44% of our pet population is 7 years or older. They're seniors and geriatrics, but almost 0% of websites look like that. So when you are a pet owner and you've got this very old Labrador, I say Labrador, Doberman, I love Dobermans too, right? and you're looking at a website it's full of puppies and kittens, like they're not really helping you out. But if you saw the mix of demographics and saw like some older pets, like then you might be more encouraged to go in to see them. And that's, maybe one reason why so many aren't going in. But
That's a tip
um
for the web developers and the
it's
marketing people in the vet
totally,
profession.
totally.
What gives you the most optimism about the future of the veterinary profession?
Oh, you know what? I am very optimistic. I know some people are pessimistic in this, and raising prices are high and stuff like that. I love going to the vet schools, and I lecture a lot to the vet students, and they're all so geared up and ready to help. Like it's just lovely to see. And I think we need to remember the vet students that are out there and encourage them to be in our profession. And it's I love to see older vets like me, that when I was, starting, I was in my 30s and 40s, like it's so good to see it. There's such great new technologies out there, but it's a lot. Like there's so much. I always hear people say like, oh, well, I didn't learn that in vet school. Well, I didn't want to be in vet school for 8 years. You can't learn everything in vet school, right? So it's always a learning. You're always There's new inventions coming out. There's new medications coming out. Like it's awesome what this technology and medicine and all the things that are out there available. So I'm very optimistic.
Well, good. What has surprised you the most during your veterinary career?
Oh, surprised me the most. I'd say actually some haters. I'm surprised that some colleagues might be so mean to each other. Like I can't stand. I see in social media groups, just the and especially if you could be anonymous, then people tend to be mean. And I'm like, we're all in this profession. I got 99 problems, and I don't want another vet to be one of them. And I'm
Yeah.
really surprised at some of the nasty stuff that I see in some groups. And that saddens me. I think we need to be very supportive of each other.
Yeah, be kind.
Be kind.
How have you seen the veterinary profession change since you first entered it?
Mm. Um, Gosh, I think it is just a lot of cool technologies out there. Everything from wearables to what AI is doing to the amazing different medications out there. So I think we are in such a great exponential space for technology to kind of help guide us through stuff. So it's been good. And when I was in vet school, I forget what the percentage was, Stacy, but it was definitely more girls than boys. But that's even more nowadays. So it's interesting to see the demographic shift a bit more. So I'd like to see more guys coming back through. I think it's great to have a healthy mix.
I've heard other people say that recently too, because someone said this morning, I know that 90 something percent of the students coming out are women, but somebody said today 86% of the vets are women. Is that true? Is that right?
I I think I was in the 70s%. Like it was, I mean, I probably or more. I think there was 20 guys at least in my class, and there was 80 people in I can't do the math off my head, but like it's just an interesting demographical shift. And I think I would love to see more guys in it. And just they bring a great perspective, different, all walks of life. Come
Yeah,
on
I
in. It's
agree.
great.
I would too. So if you're listening and you're a guy, consider being a veterinarian. We need more
Exactly.
of you. Well, Mary, if you looked into your crystal ball, what do you believe the future of veterinary medicine looks like over the next 10 to 20 years?
I think we'll see the pendulum switch to more independent practices again. I know there's been a lot of consolidation and whatnot, and which has got good and bad aspects to it. Just like independent has good and bad aspects to it. But I do think this is a really great time for people that want to open a clinic to open their own clinic. And so I hope to see a good mix of both larger corporations and independents again. I think that would be a really good healthy mix.
What has been the most rewarding moment of your career?
Oh my gosh. Stacy, I spoke in Oregon State University in October of 2013. And a few months later, they called me and said, "Hey, we would like for you to be our keynote." And I'm like, "Okay, what conference?" Like I've been the keynote at conferences. And they said, "No, keynote for our graduation in 2014." And being asked to be the keynote at a graduation was like the most amazing thing. And after just lecturing on euthanasia, right? Like I try to make it fun. It's horrible of a topic one, but you got to make it a little fun. And it was great. I was asked again into 2019, the University of Florida, but the dates didn't work for me, so I wasn't able to do it. So like both of those were just amazing opportunities. And of course now I've OSU graduating class of 2014 has got my heart. So.
Oh, I love that. Well, Mary, you've been very successful. Are there a few daily habits or routines that you believe have contributed most to your success?
So many of us have different ways that we work. I am a pretty good multitasker, which is helpful. Every night before I go to bed, and I know that, people say you should do this, right? But I look at my phone, I look at my calendar for the next day. What do I got to get up and do? So that way, if I see that I don't have a meeting till 10, maybe that's, I am going to go work out at 8 and, get a workout in. But if I know I've got a call at 8:30, I can't. So I'm going to put that somewhere else. So I like to always at night go look at what my next day is going to be. And it's hard because I do work quite a lot, and sometimes it's not good. I know that. And that's okay. It's been my passion. It's my hobby. It's everything is work. I think, having people around you that also is, can not be smarter than you, but just bring other, you don't have to be the smartest one in the room. It's so cool to learn from others. And so I just surround myself with just badass people.
That's refreshing, isn't it? That you don't have to be the
Yeah,
smartest person in the room. What would you
totally.
say has been the greatest challenge or adversity that you've had to overcome during your career?
Gosh. Well, I think two things. One, in the beginning, it's funny because, the careers just changed so much. So like in the beginning of Lap of Love, we had a lot of educating people to do. Like nobody knew about hospice, that we were made fun of, like, oh, that is prolonging suffering, like all the noise, right? And so that was tough, but we worked through it and we just kept educating and make it, normalize it a bit. And now, the pendulum has swung, and what's really challenging for me is actually the false narratives that are out there that can be found in some, different veterinary groups, or, some of the noise that people might be saying, oh, Lap of Love, they're so big and they're corporate and stuff like that. And I'm like, every one of my vets has my phone number. Like we are very tight. Yes, we're big, but we always wanted to be. So now the challenge is balancing our size being so big, but also still being very tight of a family, and dealing with the haters out there. Like it's tough. I try not to let them live rent free in my brain, right? But it's not easy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. If you could sit down with your younger self, what advice would you give?
I loved I loved all the mistakes I've made. I loved all the scars I've gotten. I think that's what's made me resilient, and made me successful is all the stuff. I think like this is not even going to be an intelligent answer, Stacy. I'm going to be like, Mary, when you're 21, say no to going brown hair, because it does not work for me at all. Stick to blonde. Like
You look great as a blonde.
I know that was my biggest mistake. I'm like, oh, actually, I did it again when I was 35, graduating vet school. My graduating pictures with the brunette. I'm like, no. But other than that, I wouldn't tell myself to do anything different. I
That's
think
good.
I think you know what? There was a few people I might have been sassy to, or said something I wish I didn't. And maybe again, be kind, even when it's hard.
Yeah. Well, Mary, is there a principle, lesson, or message you wish everyone could learn?
Hmm. That's a good one. I know there's always the typical, be kind and stuff like that, right? I think no judgment is I go back to that one. Like I think we can be so judgy in life. And what makes all humanity so beautiful is all of our differences. And so I think just lean on, don't judge.
I like that. Many of our guests point to one book that fundamentally changed the way they think or approach life. Is there a book that has that kind of impact on you?
Okay, so not necessarily life, but what I do. And that is a book by Atul Gawande, and it's called Being Mortal. And I'm not a huge reader. Like I have got a ton of books and I just starting to read them, I get like sidetracked and I'm too busy, right? But Atul Gawande, Being Mortal, is he's a human physician and he writes about aging our aging population and hospice for humans, and it's game changing. I've read it like 4 times. I could read it again. Like I could read it every year. Love it.
Well, finally, you've got the mic. What's one message you'd like to leave with our listeners before you drop the mic today?
Oh my gosh, dropping the mic. Let's see. I would say, oh, try not to have any regrets because sadness is temporary, but regret can be a lifelong thing
That's
that
good.
faces you, right? So no regrets. No
Have no
regrets.
regrets.
As the tattoo commercial says, like no regrets.
Well, Mary, thank you for being my guest today on the People of Animal Health podcast. I've enjoyed the time together with
Uh,
you.
you're very welcome, Stacey. Thanks for having me.